Everything was fine. She told me she loved me before she left.
Kara Kopetsky didn't come home from school one evening.
Something like this happens, that is really hard for this community.
We thought we may never know what happened to her.
Jessica left a gathering of friends and hasn't been heard from since.
There's been another girl disappear.
Police found her SUV burned.
I pray that they can find Jessica and even hopefully that we're able to find Kara.
Belton is a suburban community south of Kansas City, approximately 25,000 people. It's not a typical suburb, even though it is part of the Kansas City metropolitan area.
It's a working class town. It's a suburb of Kansas City. People there, they go to work, they come home, they love on their family.
Northcast Herald is on Main Street in Belton. It's a community newspaper. We cover what's going on in the community. Anything that people are talking about, we try to get a few more answers for.
Breaking news out of Belton, Missouri right now.
A Belton teenager disappeared.
Kara Kopetsky was last.
Everything was fine. I mean, she told me she loved me before she left and gave me a hug and a kiss. Said, see you after school.
That is how May 4th began for Rhonda and James Beckford. Later that day, their daughter, Kara Kopetsky, would vanish. Calls to her cell phone went unanswered.
It's not like her not to call back.
Back in 2007, Kara Kopetsky, who was a 17-year-old student at Belton High School, didn't come home from school.
It's one of those towns where something like this happens. That's difficult for this community. That is really hard because it's such a tight-knit community.
The parents both knew something was terribly wrong here, and they went into panic mode fairly quickly. The police seemed to give the parents the indication that they felt like she was probably a runaway. And Kara's parents didn't believe that they were giving it their full attention.
There's been no sign of Kara since she vanished from school. Ever since, her family's been living a nightmare.
The main thing to emphasize is, one, she's not in any trouble, and two, she's loved very much.
Kara had been known to be ornery at times, but this was not something that was within her character. Every indication is that she was a very caring, very friendly teenager that would pretty much do anything for anyone.
I would not be the person I am today if it weren't for Kara.
Shelby Stone King first met Kara at church and now prays for her friend's safe return.
She's had such a huge impact on my life. I wouldn't be a Christian today. I wouldn't have never gone back to that church because I was like so shy.
People knew that there was a serious problem here. Kara was gone.
May 4th, Kara went to school. Kara that morning was seen talking to some of her friends and saying, hey, should we skip school? So we know from surveillance footage that she left Belton High School at 9:21 in the morning. We don't know exactly who she left Belton High School with.
Kara's family knew that she had a restraining order out against an ex-boyfriend, and that boyfriend had assaulted her a couple of days before. On April 28th, Kyler Eust went by Kara's workplace about the time she was getting off work, convinced her to get into his truck.
There were some reports of a physical altercation between Kyler and Kara.
He eventually dropped her off in a parking lot and drove away, leaving her alone.
It was just a day later that Kara Kopetsky and her mother filed a restraining order. Kyler Eust had several run-ins with the law. He grew up south of Kansas City, and people described Kyler as super charming, but friends said that he had a dark side.
The fact that Kyler had exhibited violent tendencies toward Kara within the few days leading up to her disappearance was the original reason to look at him.
There are phone records that Kara was texting with Kyler Eust the same day that she went missing from Belton High School. Police finally interviewed Kyler May 6th of 2007. Kyler had an alibi. It was that he was with his great aunt at a nursing home in Kansas City. But police never followed up on this alibi. There was no interview with staff members at that nursing home to prove that Kyler Yost was there.
They could not make that final leap there to connect him to Kara's disappearance on that afternoon. On May 9th, which would have been 5 days after she disappeared, her paycheck at work became available and she could have picked it up. And she would have picked it up, but she never did.
How does a mother get through not knowing where their daughter is even one day, let alone 1 year? Because of my faith. That's really why I've been able to get through the last year, and it's given me the strength that I need to go as long as it takes.
You would think that as the years continued to pile up, that this case would tend to fade into the background of a community, and it never happened here. Things continued to bring it to the fore. There was no one in Cass County who didn't know Kara's face almost as intimately as if she was their own child. And the years dragged on. It became the unspoken thought that we may never know what happened to her.
Those honks you hear are for Kara Kopetsky. The Belton community is walking to remind people about Kara's disappearance. Her family still looking for closure and clues.
Somebody knows something.
An attendant at the local convenience store told officers at the time that, yes, he saw them together at 11:30 that morning. There was a problem with follow-up on getting the surveillance tape from that store, and they also failed to follow up with that particular employee and lost track of him. Would the videotape have actually shown Kyler and Kara together? We don't know, and we'll never know. Kyler never gave police any indication that he was involved in her disappearance in any way. The investigators did have testimony from multiple individuals that Kyler had admitted to them one-on-one that he had killed before and that he could do it again. In 2011, the FBI had Caitlin Ferris go undercover. Caitlin picked him up in the car and talked about their past a little bit. They had been romantically involved for a while. Kyler had some interest in being romantically involved with her again. She kind of played him along. She started showing interest in the Kara Kopetsky case and that she'd like to do a seance with him and see if they could communicate with her.
I'm just really curious as to what she's going to say.
Yeah, I know.
Aren't you?
I just want to satisfy your curiosity.
Shut up. You know you are too.
No, I'm not, Caitlin. I do not want to go back here. Do you understand that this is like the biggest, like, this is like the biggest in my entire life?
And she tried to get him to admit that he had killed her and where he had taken the body. But he never quite went over that line and gave them the smoking gun that they needed to make an arrest. But he sure didn't do anything in that period of time to eliminate himself as the killer. Eventually, Kyler Yost was jailed on a drug charge and sent to prison. That time, law enforcement attempted to interview him in prison. They could not get him to say anything that would indicate he had any involvement with the case whatsoever. I didn't know it at the time that he had been released from El Reno, the federal penitentiary, until Fall Festival came around. Our newspaper had a booth down there on Main Street, and it was across the street from the Find Kara booth. And Kara's stepdad came running across the street and said, "There's been another girl disappear, and she was with Kyler."
Jessica left a gathering of friends on September 8th and hasn't been heard from since. She was supposed to text the party host when she got home, but no text was ever sent.
Jessica Runions was 21 years old. She was from Raymore, Missouri, which is actually just south of Belton, where Kara Kopetsky was from. Her parents described her as incredibly fun-loving. She loved her family, her friends loved her.
She's super sweet, has such a kind heart. I mean, she works at a retirement home, and so she was a server there. She got moved up to a cook.
Kyler and Jessica were last seen at a party at a friend's house, and they had gotten into a vehicle and left.
On September 10th, Jamie Runions contacted Raymore police and reported her daughter Jessica missing. And she later discovered that no one had had any contact with Jessica since the party.
That set off the search for Jessica Runions.
Neighbors tell us police spent hours here at this duplex where Jessica attended a party on Thursday night. Now, another person attending that party, Kyler Used.
It was a few hours later, on the morning of September 9th, that her Chevy Equinox is found burning.
Jessica's car was discovered on fire on Blue River Road, which is an isolated location in South Kansas City, Missouri. Later that same night, Kyler and his half-brother, Jessup Carter, were pulled over by officers. There was some interaction at that point with Jessup Carter and his wife, who were in the front seat, and with Kyler Used, who was in the back. The officer testified that Kyler Used was incredibly nervous and that Jessup Carter's wife had a gun.
They confiscated the gun, but they let all three of them go. And then they traveled back to Jessup's hometown of Edwards, Missouri. It's a couple hours south of Kansas City. And they dropped Kyler off at a trailer. There's a lot of mystery about what happened between Jessup Carter and Kyler Used in the early morning hours after Jessica went missing.
So Kyler Used is on federal probation. He's obviously been known to associate with a woman that just disappeared within the last 48 hours. And his vehicle was found burned, and he wasn't arrested. Eventually, Jessup reported to law enforcement that Kyler had killed Jessica Runions and disposed of her body, and that he had helped burn her car, and told police where they could find him.
Police actually came, they arrested Kyler there, and they took him back to jail.
They weren't able to arrest him in direct connection with Jessica's disappearance, but they were able to charge him with knowingly burning her car. And they set the bond so high that he couldn't get out.
We have maps everywhere, we search, we spend hours and hours a week trying to find answers. But we're reaching out to all of you guys.
It's all about Jessica, we want her home, and if he is responsible for that, then just tell us something.
Rhonda had gone through so much. She bared her soul. She, opened her heart to the community throughout those years before Jessica went missing. And then when Jessica goes missing, Jamie and Rhonda really bonded.
I hope and they pray that they get answers. I hope and I pray that they can find Jessica, and even hopefully that we're able to find Kara.
In April of 2017, law enforcement received a call from a mushroom hunter on property. It was a very isolated, wooded, hilly area about 10 miles south of Belton. And this mushroom hunter had stumbled upon what he believed to be human remains. At first, all the public knew was that human remains had been found, not two sets. Of course, I immediately drove to the area. Then I talked to one of the deputies and I said, "So you think there's any chance?" And it had gotten to this level where, you don't even have to say their name. And this time he didn't laugh at me and he didn't say, no. He said, "I don't know."
Tonight, a huge search. Investigators going back into the woods trying to piece together how two sets of human remains got there. Kansas City, Missouri crime scene investigators here too. Dogs searching the area as well. All to answer whether it could be the remains of Kara Kopetsky and Jessica Runions.
Finally, we feel like we see the light at the end of the tunnel and we're moving closer toward it than ever in the past 10 years before.
It took a little while to identify the remains. Jessica's remains were identified first.
It's not a resolution unless we find her. So we're a team, and, it's still not finished for me.
Kara's remains were identified a few months later. The remains of Kara Kopetsky were more badly decomposed, so it took a little bit longer.
There's a lightness in the air, and it's a glorious day. Kara's officially back home.
She was robbed of her life, and she deserves justice, and it's up to us now to make sure that she gets that justice.
Once the remains were positively identified, authorities were able to charge Kyler with the deaths of both Kara and Jessica.
This man, Kyler Yost, has been charged with first-degree murder in both of their deaths.
Kyler had the top public defenders in the state out of St. Louis. From a legal standpoint, they challenged everything that was put forward. There was a lot of anger and a lot of anticipation. This community felt like it had waited way too long for justice in this case. Little did they know we still had quite a while to go.
The half-brother of accused murderer Kyler Yost has died at the Jackson County Jail. Carter, who was jailed on arson charges stemming from a July fire in eastern Kansas City, died this week at the detention center.
He was supposed to be a key witness at trial, but we may never know what happened between Kyler and Jessup because he committed suicide.
Another hearing and still no trial date in the state of Missouri versus Kyler Yost. Yost's attorneys are pushing for him to be found mentally incompetent to stand trial. The defense wants more DNA testing done on the girl's remains. In previous court hearings, we heard the DNA testing could take months, which could set this trial date back well into 2020.
There were so many objections and so many motions filed by Kyler Yost's public defenders. It took a long time, and I know it took a toll on Kara and Jessica's family. Everybody was ready for this trial. The community hung on every single word that we were saying, and so we spent every single minute of the trial live tweeting.
Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
We heard testimony from investigators, the FBI, friends, family.
There was incredibly heroic testimony given by people who socially had interacted with Kyler in the past, whether they'd had a romantic relationship with him or whether they had been friends.
The testimony of Kyler Yost's ex-girlfriends was so emotional.
Mr. Yost found me in his home, packing my bags to leave. He then proceeded to get on top of me, to put his hands around my neck.
And how were his hands positioned on your neck?
With his thumbs overlapping one another and his fingers wrapped around the sides of my neck.
As the defendant has his hands around your throat, what does he say to you?
I have killed ex-girlfriends before out of sheer jealousy. I will kill you before you can let another scream out of your throat.
She said that so powerfully into the microphone. She was so loud that there is no doubt that that made an impact in the court that day.
There was other testimony I found incredibly frustrating.
So you're saying, hey, I wasn't the lead detective on this case, and let's just get this straight. It's hard to figure out who was, isn't it?
At various times, yes, it was.
His defense attorney's arguments were all over the place.
The defense's case hinges on planting doubt about Yost's confessions in the case and whether Yost's half-brother, Jessup Carter, who died by suicide in jail, may have had anything to do with the murders.
They had trouble bringing witnesses to the stand. The prosecution would object. The judge would throw out the potential witnesses in the case.
It was apparent that, just getting through this thing without a mistrial was going to be an accomplishment.
All right, you come on up. You'll raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony.
Kyler Yost took the stand the last day of the trial. When he took the stand, everybody was shocked.
Did you kill Kara?
No,
Did you kill Jessica?
No.
Nearly 14 years after the disappearance of Kara Kopetsky, nearly 5 years after Jessica Runions went missing, their accused killer, Kyler Hughes, told a jury he did not kill them. Hughes directly blamed his half-brother, Jessup Carter, for killing both girls.
You must be the most unlucky guy in the world. You know why?
Why's that?
You've had 2 girlfriends that have gone missing, and the last person they were seen with is you? That's pretty unlucky, isn't it?
I mean, I think that's extremely unlucky, but anyone who has a brother that's a serial killer, I would say, is very unlucky.
You may step down.
Thank you.
The case wrapped in the afternoon, and then they came back with a verdict. It was about a 15-hour deliberation for this jury.
A jury found Hughes guilty of voluntary manslaughter in the death of 17-year-old Kara Kopetsky and guilty of second-degree murder in the death of 21-year-old Jessica Runions.
There was an initial feeling of deflation when he wasn't convicted on 2 counts of murder, especially after you realize that, you know, it's possible if the sentencing wasn't done just right, it's possible he could be out in 20-some years.
Kyler Hughes in court in jail clothing, hearing a judge sentence him to what amounts to 45 years in prison.
It appears he'll likely spend the vast majority of his life in prison. Anything else would have resulted likely in a successful appeal. And that's not something we want to go through again.
I think that was relief for the community because Kyler Hughes is going to prison. He's not walking out. This guy who they had seen as a villain for years is still that villain.
Friday's headline in the North Cass Herald says it all.
What a tragic thing to happen in your hometown, a place where you don't think these things are going to happen, and it did. Lots of support, lots of love, lots of prayers have gone up for these families.
You know, one thing I wanted to do was just weep.
If you consider the fact that justice is what you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, justice was absolutely served. We can always talk about the emotions. We can always talk about what we believe to be true. I think there is an argument that Jessica's death was preventable in that there was opportunity to have Kyler Hughes in custody prior to 2016. In retrospect, if certain questions had been asked or if certain evidence had been retained or found, that road forward might have been stopped.